Hey there, everyone. It's Blair here at Time Trades. Thanks for joining me this weekend. It is Sunday, September 18th, and this is your weekly video. Okay, so let's start off with a review of last week's forecast. So we're going to go over to TradingView here, and we're going to take a look at how that played out. So on the left, we've got the NQ futures, and in last week's forecast, we forecast that the trend would continue up based on the strong finish to the week and the Gann wave yellow here. What happened was we hit the Gann wave green, and we got the bad CPI news on Tuesday, and then things basically flushed down for the rest of the week. So you can see there's 4 strong red trending down days on the Heikin-Ashi bars. So really, in hindsight, it was not a good forecast. 1 day out of 5 was right. So, give myself a D on that. But I think the interesting takeaway here is using these Gann wave dates, even the green dates, as decision windows, right? The fact that we got such an abrupt turn right on a Gann wave green is important information, right? And there's really no point in holding and hoping after that strong turn down on Tuesday, because it really started to look like a replay of what happened back on August 16th, where again we hit a Gann wave green and started really a 3-week down move into blue. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen here again. I think we're on the cusp of really a multi-week decline. I tweeted that out on Tuesday that, today is day 1 of a multi-week decline. And I'm going to leave this forecast arrow in place because I continue to believe that we are heading down into early October in alignment with this Gann wave blue down here. The other thing that we can learn from this is taking a look at the Qs, not just the futures. You can see how the Qs pushed up into a magic level, and there was no magic level here on the in that area around. So if we go over to the futures, there's no magic level around 12,700, right? 12,800. That's about where things topped out on Monday, but there was on the Qs. So once again, the magic levels give us a pretty strong indication of price action, and tagging that magic level here at 310 on the Qs, we know at a minimum there's going to be a pullback and maybe a retest. Okay, so in the future, I'm going to be incorporating both the Qs and the futures in the go forward forecast, because knowing where these magic levels are is really important. Okay, so that's our takeaway from last week. Let's go and do a quick roadmap update, and then we'll take a look at some more stocks here. So if we flip over to Keynote, we can take a look at the roadmap changes that have happened over the last week. The most important one being the addition of geocentric and heliocentric aspects that are anchored to major pivots. So what I'm doing here is I'm finding the pivots automatically. Time Trades does that, and then anchoring to that point and counting degrees of motion of the planets, both heliocentric and geocentric. And then while I'm counting those, I'm also identifying where they make a major aspect, like a square, a trine, an opposite, etc., with that anchor point. So this is, if any of you follow the work of Jenkins, he does something similar here. So I don't know if this is Gann's master time factor. It may very well be, but it's really an alternative way of measuring time relative to these major pivots. The other thing that I did this week is, in the course of upgrading the machine learning, we removed the daily square dates. So what these are perfect square trading days and calendar days counted as well from the pivots. And the daily detail is really just too fine-grained, and it was adding too much noise to the model. So removing these resulted in a nice upgrade to precision and accuracy. So we're going to be removing the daily square days from the user interface soon. Weekly square days continue to add value. So those are staying in the user interface and in the machine learning. Okay, so that's the update there. As far as our roadmap, in the last week, it was a lot of machine learning focus. So I have more work to do on improving the web application and delivering additional videos and the functionality that we've been talking about. So that's still in the backlog there. Okay, so that's our quick little roadmap update. Let's go and take a look at time trades now and see what the upgraded machine learning is telling us in terms of future price action. So we had this flush down to the magic level here on the Qs at 285. And now we're seeing some green probabilities. I think the highest one over here is like 20%, so not huge, which kind of makes sense because often there's bounces from magic levels, right? Again, like if time trades isn't a formal system with trading rules, but if it were, the number one rule would be trade in the direction of the last magic level cross. So we zoom in here on the Qs, we can see we've had magic level crosses here on August 19th as we gapped below that white magic level, and also magic level crosses again on 310, at 310 on August 26th. And it rebounded back to this magic level, could not cross it, could not close above it, could not separate from it. So trade should be on the downside. We got to trade in the direction of the last magic level cross. That'll keep you in line with the trend. Now we're down here. We've got a few green days, but we also have some more red days coming up. You'll notice that this blue Gann wave here on October 3rd, that's kind of the center point of the go forward forecast. That's when we think in general that things are going to establish a pivot low. You can see in the past why I'm forecasting that, because we've got blue Gann wave pivot lows here on July 13th and within 1 day on June 16th. And also within another 1 day on May 19th. So plus or minus 1 day is a pretty good timing window here. We're looking for early October, the week of October 3rd. It may continue down for a few more days based on the probabilities here. So this is one symbol, and whenever I'm looking at major indexes, I like to look at the three major indexes. The other thing that I like to do, and I'm going to go back to Keynote here to explain this because this comes up, is it's really easy to sort of over focus on the daily forecast, but these are only the third most important thing in time trades. Okay, the number one most important thing is price behavior, and specifically around magic levels. I've already talked about that. The number one most important thing is trade in the direction of the last magic level cross, okay? So a lot of people that are new to time trades really sort of over focus on the daily probabilities. So my advice is to focus on price, focus on magic levels and Heikin-Ashi bars around that. We've got a few other tools in the kit for also looking at price, things like the square of 12 EMAs. And then look at the overall context with respect to Gann waves and the cheat code and some of the lunar cycles as well. And then finally, take a look at the daily forecast, right? So and you can see how these are at the bottom of the importance pyramid, right? Price is always the most important. Daily forecasts are always just probabilities, right? You know, even just because it's you know, it's got some fancy software behind it and it's using, you know, machine learning and all that, it's still just probabilities. It's subject to inversions, and you have to consider that in the broader context of price and the Gann wave cycles. Okay, so that being said, let's go back and take a look at some other indexes here. So we're going to look at the spiders. Okay, so spiders also showing a handful of green days here, and then we start to see a cluster of red, and again we see this red right around October 3rd. Ideally, I'd like to see red, the down days aligning with pivot lows right a little bit more accurately, but we still are seeing some pivot lows here. And yes, there's some pivot highs shown up here. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a higher price. All it means is that it's a local high. We don't know if that's going to be a lower high or a higher high. Okay, so I'm discounting this a little bit because it's kind of in conflict with the down move here, and the context is that, hey, we've got a Gann wave yellow on Monday, so we're going to be looking at likely 2 weeks of down pressure from that broader context. That aligns with the red down days here. So I'm discounting these yellow pivot high days a little bit and focusing in on the absence of up pressure for the next couple of weeks, as well as this pivot low down here, October 17th. But we'll worry about October 17th when that, in a couple of weeks. But I think the immediate target here is late September, early October. So let's take a look at the Dow. Okay, so the Dow, again, pretty similar to everything else, the Qs and the spiders. We've got declining up days this week, okay? So often price can go down even though we've got up pressure. If the up pressure is going down, that often translates into price going down. And then we've got pivot lows here, October 3rd, and then we've got another wave of down pressure later in that week, October 6th, October 7th. Okay, so again, with the broader context and price crossing down below magic levels, you can see here on the Dow how it's just slicing through magic levels as well. Trade should be on the downside until at least early October. Okay, now one of the things I want to show on the Dow is the influencers. So last night we updated the influencers for stocks, including the Dow. And this includes some of the new items we've added to the machine learning. So this is super powerful. I haven't touched on this recently, so I wanted to review this. What this is showing us is which of all of the 1,773 data points in time trades, which ones have the most influence over pivot highs. Okay, Venus in the office is a Vedic concept, but I want to focus in on some of the newer items that we've added, and Venus Helio Trine since pivot. So this is one of the new items that I've added this week. So a trine is basically 120 degrees or 240 degrees of movement since a pivot. So that's measuring heliocentrically from the sun. So the observer's on the sun and sees Venus move either 120 or 240. So that is the second most influential item over a pivot high for the Dow. Okay. Also, we see down here Mars helio semi-square. Semi-square is 45 degrees since a pivot. And we also see the same thing with Mercury helio semi-square. So you can see the importance of heliocentric measurements, as well as, we've got sun geosextile since a pivot. That's a sextile is 60 degrees. So you can go through this and you can take a look at which of these items are the most influential. And I'm just going to click through these, and you can see some of the highlights here, especially with the new ones. I love to see new items that I've added to the machine learning pop up on this list of like the top 20, top 100. So what else is here that's interesting? Here's another recent addition. OOBN stands for out of bounds north. Okay, so we're looking at Mars declination, and when it is above the peak of Earth declination of 23.4 degrees, that means it's out of bounds. Okay, so Mars declination can exceed 23.4, and when it does, that has a big influence over 2 standard deviation moves up. Okay, so this is all interesting trivia, but how do we translate that into actual decisions? So on the calendar, what we do is we take those important influential events and we take a look at what's coming up next, and we display those on what's coming up next. And just scanning through this for the Dow, we can see here how there's just actually an overabundance of moves down influencers over the next few weeks. So you can see how things are heavily weighted to that. All right. So one of the things in the backlog that I want to do is add an explanation to all of these so that there's some sort of dictionary here that explains all this. I want to expose some of the inner workings of the machine learning so that if you're curious on this stuff and want to learn more about Astro, you can drill down on it. Okay, so that's the Dow. I wanted to share that with you. Let's go back to the chart here. And we can also take a look at IWM. IWM is showing a fair amount of red here. And again, what I find interesting is peak down days really close to this blue pivot, blue Gann wave down. And we've got a pivot low on October 4th, about 24% probability. Okay, so there's actually quite a nice confluence and alignment between all the major indexes now. It gets even clearer when we take a look at some major stocks. Like we look at Apple, we can see a big cluster of moves down here. And again, the importance of this Gann wave blue day on October 3rd aligns very closely with this cluster of red days, as well as pivot lows down here. And again, I'm kind of discounting all of these pivot highs a little bit because these maybe just end up being sort of brief intraday corrections in a broader downtrend. You can see there's just a lot more red on the screen. There's virtually no green on the screen. So we're discounting these pivot highs here. Okay, NVIDIA is another example of a stock that is, supporting this bearish confluence, this bearish outlook. So again, we've got this cluster of red, and that aligns with no green, and that aligns with pivot lows here as well. Another thing I like to look at is currency. So let's take a look at UUP. This is the US dollar. So this is the US dollar index fund. It's basically a proxy for DXY. And you can see here declining red days heading up into a pivot high. So this supports our bearish thesis because stocks are going down. Investors are going to, there's going to be a flight to safety in this down move. So that is usually the US dollar. So the US dollar having a bullish forecast supports our bearish stock forecast as well. Okay. So that's a pretty good story, and it all fits together. All the pieces of the puzzle are fitting together pretty well between stocks and the US dollar. Let's take a look at crypto. Bitcoin is showing a little bit more activity on the forecast with the recent upgrades, and generally it's pretty bullish here. Now, that being said, I do like to try to trade in line with the GAN waves, and I also, as you know, I like to trade in the direction of the last magic level cross. So it looks like we had a magic level cross back here on September 9th with a big green wave up. Couldn't quite separate above 21.6. So we're back down here and basing at 19,800. I'm in no rush to add a bullish position here to Bitcoin. In general, crypto tracks stocks, and the negative forecast that we just reviewed in stocks will likely pull crypto down here. So I'll be waiting for at least October 3rd and the end of September, early October, to reconsider any longs in crypto. But we are starting to see, some evidence of more uptrend here. We've got pivot highs October 18th and that, and also in November, early November and late November. Let's take a look at Ethereum. That's been in the news a lot lately with the recent merge. So we're just kind of hovering right now in the high 1400s, just above the white magic level. And we've got a nice growing cluster of moves up here. So I think it would be, again, wise to just sort of let the stock move play out a little bit. That could drag crypto and other risk assets down. We don't know at what point this price will be when these green bars start. So they may start here around September 26th, or even a little later around October 3rd. So I think there's some good bullish potential for crypto if we're patient and wait for the next GAN wave blue. Okay, so we're going to wrap things up with a little review of LTI. That's the Indian stock that we took a look at last week. So let's see how that played out. This was a bullish forecast based on these green moves up. And we anticipated there would be a good move up into the yellow GAN wave. We got a nice move up on September 12th. That was Monday, and we got a red bar, a red close on Tuesday the 13th, and then the CPI news hit, and that slammed the stock down along with everything else. So again, I think the same learnings apply here as they do to the major indexes. Just consider the GAN waves as decision windows, right? So we got a nice gap up here into a GAN wave. Obviously, I don't know how what the CPI number is, or what the value is going to be, but or how the reaction is going to be to the news items. So I don't actively think about all that, but what I do think about is what I can control, and that is, we've got a nice green up bar here into a GAN wave green. So obviously, in hindsight, that would have been a good spot to take some profits. And again, you can see the importance of price over the probabilities, right? We've got growing probabilities of a day, of an up day. But this is why this is third in importance in our hierarchy, okay? Because at the end of the day, these are just probabilities. These can invert. There's a bunch of different there's two different pieces of information encoded in these probabilities. One is the actual probability of something happening, and second is the direction. Okay, so sometimes these probabilities can invert. That looks like that maybe what happened here, as certainly we've had a big move down from 48 down to 43. Okay. Again, treat these Gann wave dates as decision windows. And this nice move up here into a Gann wave green in hindsight looks like a great place to at least take some profits and take something off the table, de-risk a little bit prior to the big news item hitting in the future. Okay, so that's it for me. I hope you had a great week trading. Good luck this coming week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.